Hello, in this session we will see about curves, how to create curves and handle them. Here we have around 6 kinds of tools to create curves. The first one is control vertex curve, then edit point curve, we have Bezier curve, pencil curve, 3-point circular, 2-point circular curve. So these both are going to be similar, almost. These both are going to be similar. This is different, this is different. So but all of them are going to create curves. When we are creating curves, we have to make sure we are creating the curves in a grid. So the curves are going to get created in a grid. So they don't have XYZ space, they have only XY space. So they are going to get created only in a 2-dimensional direction, but later stages we can manipulate and make them created in any other direction. Otherwise we have to make an object live, and then on top of the object we have to create a curve where it will get created on all the 3 coordinates. So first we will see this CV curve tool. When I select the tool settings, in the CV curve tool we have curve degree, knot spacing. I'll go with the reset setting. This is the reset setting, and then we have multiple end knots. In EP curve tools, edit point curve tool, we won't have that multiple end knots. So that is going to be the major difference between these 2 curves. Other than that, there are different ways to create a curve. When we have to intersect different curves, then we have to choose which one to go with. So depending on our need, we can choose the base. The main point is, so when we are creating a curve, so we are not going to stop with creating one curve, because end of creating curve should be creating a surface out of the curves. So we may need many curves to create a surface. So while creating a single surface, so we need many curves. So make sure we are sticking to one tool, and under the one tool we are using any of these knot spacing, either the uniform or the chord length. The difference between uniform and chord length is, in a curve we have UV like XY in 2D. So the points whatever we are creating in a curve are going to place in particular intervals. How the intervals are calculated differs in uniform and chord length. So here it may be whole numbers or 1 or 1.5, they will have their individual values. Here depending on the length it will change the values. So when we are creating a NURBS surface out of many curves, if they are made up of many combination here in the knot spacing and the curve tool, not over here in the curve degree, so only under knot spacing and these tools. So make sure we are sticking to one method and one tool. So we will see this curve degree. So what is this curve degree? Under the curve degree we are having 1, 2, 3 and then 3 Bezier, 5 and 7. So this linear will give us sharp corners. There won't be any smooth bends over here. These corners are going to be sharp. It is called the linear curve degree. After that we have 2, 3, 5, 7. We will see this Bezier later. 2, 3, 5, 7 is after how many clicks our curve is going to bend. So for example, after 2 clicks, you have to get out of it first. I'll go to 2. Now I have 1, 2, and after that when I do the 3rd click, you can see the curve getting created, right? So when I go to the 3 cubic, I'll just press Q over here. Again I'll see, instead of 2 I'll go to 3. Now I can see 1, 2, 3. After the 3rd click I am getting the curve. It goes like this till 7. But when you go to the 3 Bezier, Bezier is something where I click 1, 2 and the 3rd point which I create is going to be a Bezier point. So this is going to be a CV curve, and 3rd one is going to be a Bezier point. Again I'll show you. 3 Bezier is 1, 2, 3, then you see 4th one is also a Bezier point. Now I'll come here, right click, control vertex. I can see these vertices are having weight. So when I come here to see other vertex and their components, when I see others except the Bezier, so we will skip Bezier for now. We will see only the CV curve and EP curve. I am creating, I'll go with reset tool, 3 cubic. I am having a CV curve, and again this is an EP curve. I am creating an EP curve. Like when I create an EP curve, right click, I am having 6 options: control vertex, curve point, object mode, hull and edit point. So these are going to be the component and this is going to be object mode. So when I click EP curve, I am getting the same component. It is not going to change. But when I create a Bezier curve tool, right click, here we are having only 4 components. We are not having edit point over here. The way a Bezier curve created is different. Those who are familiar with Photoshop pen tool, Illustrator or Corel Draw, you will be familiar with these weight handles. So for those who don't know that, I will give a small introduction. Like when we are going with CV curve tool, right click, I have a control vertex. As we saw in the earlier class, these are going to be the weights which are going to push or pull the spline. This spline, these are going to be the weights. So here they are single dots which represents the weight. So here we see 3 fill dots and then we see something like a box and a U. The meaning of this is telling us this is how this curve is traveling. So for example, if I create something like this, okay, something like this, how do I know in which direction the curve is traveling, either clockwise or anti-clockwise? So if it is closed, we will see what is this close. If it is closed, we may not see. So now I know this box means that is going to be the first point which I created. The second point is going to look like a U. So where is the U? Okay, U is here. So meaning our curve is traveling this way. So after that, it is going to be all fill dots, right? So but when I create something using a Bezier tool, or when I create something under this curve degree under 3 Bezier, our options are going to be different. So when we understand Bezier, we will know what is this. So don't worry about this Bezier. When we see this Bezier, you will understand this. So the next thing we have is Bezier curve tool. Under the Bezier curve tool, it is very clear cut and you can select whatever you want. Just go with the reset tool. Here we have manipulation setting, we have translation, scale, then we have tangent settings and hotkeys. So what is this curve tool? The same way I created other curve, I'll create Bezier curve. I'll just click here. I'm just keep on clicking. See, when I keep on clicking, it is going to look like something linear over here in this curve degree. But when I come here, I click, I do the second click, I'm not leaving my left mouse button, but I'm dragging. When I drag, I'm getting a handle. So which is going to have weight, which is similar to your 2D software's pen tool weights. So here we have weight, and after that I am not dragging, but when I click according to this weight, I am getting a curve. So this is how a Bezier tool works. See, I can create with control any type of curve with minimal number of control points. As we saw already, always make sure your curves or your surfaces or polygons having minimal number of control points, vertex, edges, faces, whatever it is, because it will be very comfortable handling, as well as it will be a nice mesh at the end and easy to control by the subsequent artist. So here also we have to make sure how minimalistic we can be when creating a curve, right? So we are getting something like this. Again, when I click over here, it is converting into a linear. In a single curve, I am getting smooth as well as linear values, right? So now when I right click, I am getting the control vertex. Now we see this one is not having a handle, this one is having a handle. So meaning these are having weights. I can rotate the weight. For example, I'll go with the top view. I am rotating the weight. You can see by rotating, I can change the shape, I can scale it, I can translate. So how do I get a Bezier handle over here? So how do I get? Shift right click. I can convert this into a Bezier corner or a Bezier, normal Bezier or a corner. So here, what is this corner, Bezier and normal corner is? When I click these tool options, in select mode we have normal select, weighted select and tangent select. When I come here, I will go with select mode normal select. I am just selecting the handle. When I select the handle, you can see both the sides are getting affected and the weights are equally getting distributed on both the sides. So when I reduce the weight over here or increase the weight over here in the opposite side, it is symmetrically happening. When I go to the Bezier tool, select mode is uneven, like weighted select. I'll come here again, I'll select the control vertex, the control point, just clicking this and holding the handle. When I click this Bezier point and click the handle, depending on the selection over here, my control is going to affect that way. See, one handle I can increase or decrease the weight, other one is not getting affected. But if I am in this mode, I am clicking the handle. Now you can see, sorry, because of my earlier selection it happened, otherwise it is going to be an evenly distributed handle. Then we have something called a handle break. So how do I do this handle break? I select this. Now you know this individual handle is acting independently. The opposite handle is not moving, meaning my handle is broken. The same thing you can get. Right click, control vertex. I'll select this Bezier weight, shift right click. Here it is already a Bezier. I can convert into a corner, which is a linear one. Again I can right click, convert into a Bezier. Then I get this Bezier corner. So meaning it is going to have a Bezier handle in a corner vertex point. So now we have a handle which is broken. Now it is going to be independent. Then under the Bezier tool we have all the shortcuts. So this is the main shortcuts. Others you can see reset anchor tangent handles, close curve only for first anchor. So already we saw which is the first anchor and the last anchor. So when I control shift and left mouse button, the first anchor, the curve is going to get closed. So always make sure you are leaving the first and last anchor next to each other where this thing doesn't happen. Then you can delete, break the tangent, whatever we did earlier. The same thing you can use by just control and left mouse button. Like I can come here, control, here I can do a left mouse. See, it is broken. Shift left mouse, constraint tangent angle. We can have a tangent angle over here. It is going to get constraint. You can see this angle is constraint. I am just increasing or decreasing the weight without affecting the angle if I am pressing shift. So I can just move it this way. Again I'll press shift. So it is not going to change the degree, but it is just going to increase the weight of the handle. So this is what happened when I press shift and left mouse. So you can just see them. Enable manipulation mode, middle mouse. You can just manipulate the single vertex without affecting the handle weights. Then shift right mouse. We saw shift right mouse where we can convert into any of these corners. Then we have tool sensitive marking menu where control shift and right mouse. We have the marking menu. Those things we will see later. Here then we get something called a pencil curve tool. So what is this pencil curve tool? Here we have only two options. One is linear, another one is curve degree. We will go with the curve degree. It is like a pencil. I can just draw whatever I want. So I am getting whatever I want, but the problem here is it is going to have more vertex, control vertex. So I am right clicking, control vertex. See how many control vertex I am having. Here when I select this, it is going to have 120 control vertices. How do I know? Here when I go to the attributes, you can check the number of spans. Otherwise you can just select every one of them. Just you have to leave the first and last one, because without them the curve is not there. It is calculating only those control vertex in the middle of the curve. So we have to remove first and last one. So it is going to be 120. Here we are seeing 122. Just reduce two of them. It is going to be 120. So the span count by default it will start from 0. Later stages if we want to change, we can change it. So I don't want 120 control vertex. I don't want this much. I want some reasonable amount of control vertex. So how do I get that? I want to reduce it to something like 60 over here. How do I get? You have to go to the object mode. When you are in the object mode, go to curves. So whatever we are going to do with the curves, we have to come under the curves menu. I have to go with rebuild. When I see this rebuild at the bottom of the curves menu, we can see rebuild and reverse direction. The same will be available under the surface menu. So you have to make sure you are choosing the right menu to get the result. I will go here to the rebuild, number of spans, go to edit, reset settings. By default it will be 4. Now we have 120. I want something like 60. So before that there are some options. Rebuild type, how do you want Do you want to reduce it here and there and have 60 spans, but it is not going to be uniform? This is what will happen in reduce. So when I go to uniform, you can give the amount of span you want, which will be distributed evenly along the spline. Then we have match knots. If you want to match the knots, we will see about knots. At the time you will understand, like you can create knots and create the vertex points, match the knots, or no multiple knots, you don't want any multiple knots, or you want to match the curvature, or end condition. When I click end condition, this option is going to go away. So we have only two options to choose. Either end condition is no multiple knots, or you want multiple knots. So we are not going to go with this. When we are creating different curves in different conditions, we will see these things in detail. Just we will go with this uniform for now. So in this uniform, we are getting an option parameter range. Parameter range, already we saw what is this parameter ranges, which we get over here, knot spacing, uniform or chord length. So this and this parameter ranges, they are like connected to each other. Whether you want the parameter range from 0 to 1 or 0 to the number of spans we have, how you want the parameter range to be. By default it is going to be 0 to 1. So in the middle there will be some decimals. Then you have keep the ends or keep the tangents. You can, this is a checkbox, you can check every of them. Whatever you want to keep, just I want to keep the ends. So meaning, because of the reduction of the spans, there may be changes here. It may change depending on the number of spans, but these two ends won't move their position. So that is the meaning of keep ends, right? Then I want 63 cubic. That is what I want to be rebuilt as. If I want it as linear, I can have a linear. If whatever method I want, I can choose. So by default it is 3 cubic. Then I have keep original, whether I want to keep the original 120 and I want to have a 60. No, I don't want that 120, I just want to have the 60. Okay, for now we will have both of them. Keep original, so you can see the difference. I'll press apply. So before that I have to make sure I have chosen the curve in object mode, not in the component mode. Apply. Now you can see, now we have two curves over here. So the blue one is the older curve which is with 120 spans. This green one is the new one with 60 spans. So meaning, when we are having 60 spans equally distributed, those small details are missing. Right here it is bending more because the number of spans are less. Right click, control vertex. Now I can see the spans are in equal distance. Now when I check under the channel box, we should have 62 over here. Yes, we have 62. 62 minus 2 is 60. So this is how we can control this pencil curve as well as all these curves, because when we are creating objects or creating NURBS surfaces, those curves, whatever we are creating, the span should be equal, then only they will match correctly, as well as the distance matters to get a nice mesh flow. So if you are having more control vertex in pencil curve tool, just go with rebuild, and this rebuild will be used regularly in many cases. I'll just reset the setting, close. Then we have 3-point and 2-point arc tool. Under the 3-point and 2-point arc tool, we won't get much issues because there will be only three options. One is linear, cubic, and then there is something called a section. Section is nothing but in that arc how many sections you want, how many, as into how many sections it have to be divided. That is what this section means. By default it will be 8. So we will go with 8. 3 and 2 both are same. There is not much difference over here. Only thing is where we are going to click. I'll go with 3-point. I'll just press X to snap to any grid. X, I'm snapping 2. So 1, 2 and 3. So now this is having a radius of 2.55 centimeter because we are seeing centimeter. Default value is centimeter in Maya. So that is going to be the radius. So by having 3-point clicked, we are getting this curve. So now I can manipulate these dots depending on my wish. So if I want something like 2.5 centimeter and it should be exactly at the center, I can manipulate these points. So I can manipulate them in any way I want. I can create a circle out of them with a different radius. So this is the same thing is going to happen with 2-point circular tool. We are going to click only twice and we have an arc over here. We have a handle, just drag it down, this arc will go up. Again the same way you can control this handle to get the radius you want. This is all about creating curves. So not only we can create inside Maya, we can also import from other third-party softwares, something like Illustrator. We have options to import from Adobe Illustrator. We can directly import AI formats. Then we have SVG. SVG is nothing but scalable vector graphics. So all those vector files you can import over here. If you are, even though if you are not having direct format, something like DWG from 3ds Max, we can come here, file, import. I'll go to import, edit, reset setting. Just I'm pressing import over here. Files of type, we can see DXF, NX, so many things over here. So in this SVG is scalable vector graphics, which is going to be in curve formats. You couldn't download something from AutoCAD or DWG or a PDF file which is having vector values in it. You can just take it to any vector software like Illustrator. There you can convert into a AI format. From AI you can bring it over here and work, because many people used to do this because those softwares are meant to work with lines, so you have a great control over them. You would have created those lines for a different purpose, for a printing purpose. Again the same thing you can bring here and work. You don't have to redo that. So when we are working, we will see how to import, export from here to other softwares and import from other softwares over here. This session for today's video, we'll just stick with creating curves in Maya. So these are the only methods we have to create curves over here. Then when we see type, almost type also comes under curves, but that we will see in a separate session. When we are creating a curve, that curve is not going to be closed, right? That curve is not going to be closed. When I am creating a curve over here, I'll just go to create to make sure which curve we are creating. Curve tool. See, I am creating a curve because it started from here, because it is a 3 Bezier. I'll just come out. I'll go with 3 cubic, thing special, right? I'm creating a curve. I mean a curve over here, but we are not going to close. By default, it is not going to close. We can close it. How do we close? I'll go to curves. Under the curves, we have open, close. When under this option, we have more options to work with, where I'll go with the reset setting, shape, preserve the shape. You want the shape to be preserved because it is going to get a line over here. I will come here. So see, when we are creating a curve, always the pivot is going to get created in the world center, meaning 0, 0, 0. So for this, I have something like freeze transform, reset transform, center pivot, all those things in my shelf, any shelf. Like we can have those things whatever we are using regularly, where there is no shortcut for them, we can put them over here and work from here. So now I'll come here, I'll click the center pivot. The pivot is going to be in the center of the curve. I'll press Ctrl D. I'll click on 4 similar curves. The first curve I'm going to close by using ignore the shape, apply. See, the shape changed over here when it is closing the curve. I'll come here, I'll ask you to preserve the curve. So you can see the shape is intact. It is just adding the gap. It is not doing anything to the ends. Then we have something called blend. We have blend bias. We can go with 0 to 1, 0.1, 0.5 is the default. When I apply, it is having a nice blend over here to create the circle. So this blend bias, we can increase or decrease this blend bias. Depending on our blend bias, our blending amount will change. So we can insert knot, and when we are inserting knot, wherever knot have to be inserted, we can check over here. Then we can check whether we want to keep the original or not. So this way we can open or close. Again, we can open. The same thing, it is going to toggle whether you open or close. But when we are opening and closing, we have to make sure it is not taking from the last position, because when I open over here, you can see what is happening. So we saw what is this rebuild, and then we saw what is this open close curve. So now then one of the regularly used thing is cut. So why do we cut curves? To get some results. It is like intersecting. In school we would have learned this set language, A intersection B, B intersection C, A minus B, A union B. The same thing over here using curves, right? Before seeing that, see over here under the create curve tool, we are having only 6 tools over here. But when I go to the NURBS primitives, here also I am having something called a circle and square. So apart from these two, others are going to be surfaces, these are going to be curves. So we will see them. So main difference between them is I am creating a NURBS circle over here. It is clearly written, it is NURBS circle. I am creating a CV curve over here. So when I create a CV curve, right click, I am getting those 6 options. When I click this, I am getting the same 6 options. But what is the difference? Here it is a NURBS circle, and in the channel box it is having a different value. In the channel box the value is different. But here in the history we don't see anything, but under this circle, under the history, we see some options over here. Those options are going to be the options which we get under this circle. So reset tool, by default it is going to have a 360-degree sweep. We know a circle is, full circle is a 360 degree. Then whether it is going to be a linear, cubic. So how linear, cubic works over here, we are going to have only 8 sections. If we are having only 8 sections, if it is cubic, we are going to have a circular smooth surface. If it is going to be a linear and I will get something where you have sharp corners. So this is going to be the difference between creating using linear and cubic. By default it is going to be cubic. Then we have use tolerance, none, local and global. Any tolerance we can use. We are not using any for now. This is the number of sections, meaning number of sections. Okay, in arc we didn't see that sections. It is nothing but I saw this 8 section over here. I am creating a 3-point arc. Right click, complete, control vertex. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sections are here. So when I come here, I'll go with 4 sections. I'll click over here, right click, control vertex. We can see 1, 2, 3, 4. So we are not counting the last 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4 sections we are getting. So that is what the meaning of sections over here. The same thing when I go to the circle, it is asking number of sections. The same sections, it is asking how many sections I want. I'll put 8 over here. So here I can't adjust the sections, whether the sections have to be adjusted, that we are not going to do now. Single click settings in the sense interactive creation. If the interactive creation is not active, we can go with the single click setting where radius is going to be 1, or otherwise we can go with a control click. When we are doing a control click, we know we will get a nice result. So something like this, I'll come here, radius is 1, control and clicking, I'm getting something with radius of 1. I'll give a radius of 5 and control clicking, I get something with a radius of 5. So this is what will happen with this single click settings. Axis, we are going with Y axis, we can go with any axis or free axis over here. Those things can be defined over here. So don't put too much into your head. Whatever you can remember, just remember. When we are practicing regularly, when the need comes, those things can be remembered. The same thing for the square, we have those options except the radius. We have some length for one side and length for the other side. So we will see this when I am creating a square. I created a square over here. Done. I'll select this, make NURBS square. Now you get the length 1 and this is length 2. So you can't go beyond 10 by dragging. So these are the options you are getting. But in the circle, you get something called a radius. We can increase or decrease the radius. All these things can be manipulated, whatever we are seeing in the channel box. Then we see sweep. So we want a full circle or half circle or any degree we want. We can choose from here. Either cubic, linear can be changed over here, and your sections also can be changed. But see, after I manipulate the vertex, something like this, now I'll come here and do a sweep. See, it will go weird. So when it goes weird, you can adjust a bit with the help of number of sections. So this also may help you a bit, not too much, but make sure this doesn't affect your sweep, right? So after your sweep, you do your changes. So this is the difference between this circle and square and other tools under the curve tools. So in today's session, we saw open close, we saw rebuild, we saw two tools from here under NURBS primitives and curve tools. So now we will see how we can use that maths what we learnt in school, set language, over here to get some results. Now I will go with front view. Any view you can go, but it have to be in a grid. I am creating some circles. I'll just control D. I created a circle, right? It's like the same thing which we had in the school. Again, I'm having a 2-point arc tool. I'm creating something like this by snapping to the I'm just creating something like this. This is having many curves, curve tools, right? I'll select all of them. I'll go to curves. Under the curve you have something called cut. Under the cut, edit, reset settings. The first thing is find intersection. So find intersection is whether you want to find the intersection in 2D and 3D or only in 3D, or use a particular direction, either X, Y, Z you can use, or you can choose an active view or any free direction. So that we are not getting into that. We will just stick with in 2D and 3D. Then we have cut. At all intersection, wherever we get intersection, you want it to be cut, or using the last curve. Only the last curve. What is the last curve? The green color one is the last curve. Only using this you want to cut the segments. No, I am not going with that. I will go with all the intersection. Then keep longer segment, or keep segments with curve points, or keep all curve segments. I'll just go with keep all the curve segments which are going to get cut. Then use tolerance, global tolerance. Otherwise I can go with the local tolerance and give some value to see the tolerance. Now we don't go with anything, just global. Keep original, we don't want the original over here. So this is something similar to what we get in Pathfinder. Illustrator Pathfinder, the Pathfinder tool will cut whatever you want and separate them. Same thing is happening over here with the curves. I'm selecting all those things, just going with the reset settings, apply. Something happened. I am not seeing any visual change, but when I select this, you can see it is a separate curve over here. It is not the circle right now. So I am combining circle, square, all those things we can combine and create something and cut using this method. So I am just going to delete all those things in the center. I am just going to get a shape over here. So I can delete this, I can delete this, I get a different shape, or I can just delete this, I get a different shape. So depending on what we create, what we want, we can get shapes out of this method. So just try some shapes, just the curves, just the curves you try. You don't have to try anything. Just the curves, try to get different shapes, do some drawings, cut them. And now after we create, they are going to be different curves. They are not going to be a single curve over here. They are going to be many curves. So when I select one, see what is happening. When I move this, only one is going to move. Others are not going to move. So I have to make sure every curve is single, and when I right click object mode, everything is getting selected. So I am selecting all these things. I'll just go to curves. Then we have something called attach. Under the attach, we have attach method, connect, blend, multiple nodes, keep, or remove the multiple nodes. We will just go with edit reset settings. So when you are going with edit reset setting, we are getting something like blend. I don't want to connect. If I go with connect, I will get a different result. By default it is blend, and blend bias is 0.5, and I will just go with the keep originals. Okay, so I don't want the originals over here. I'll just do this. When we are creating NURBS surfaces, we will see different options over here. What is the different results we will get by choosing these different options. So now it is nothing to worry, just apply. When I apply here, you can see this is my earlier shape. Now it got blended and got a different shape. So I don't want this now. See, again I have some curves over here. I'll just delete them. So they also will be a problem. See minutely if there is any mistake, overlapping curves. Now I'll select all of them. Instead of blend, I'll go to connect, multiple nodes, keep, apply. Now you can see my curve didn't change a lot, but here there is something happening because of these curves. So it is not a problem. So now this is giving us some issues. So here we can see something is happening. So when something like this happen, make sure you are having something neat. So your curve angle shouldn't be an issue when you are converting them, or sorry, when you are attaching them. Attach. Right, now they are not overlapping, because earlier it was very hard for it to travel, so it had an intersection over here. Now you can see the intersection is not happening. We are creating a single curve, so that when I select this, it is going to be a single curve. When I move, right click, control vertex, all the control vertex are going to be available right now. Object mode, it is going to be a single object. I just can go with my center pivot again to make it to the center. So just check with different methods over here. Keep, remove multiple nodes, connect, blend depending on your need. Try to get some lines, line drawings, anything using lines. Just try with the tools whatever you learned. So others we will learn in the coming classes. So the next class we will have some introduction to the NURBS primitives. After that we will see how we can convert our curves to NURBS surfaces, and then from NURBS surfaces to polygonal surfaces depending on our need. Otherwise we can stop in NURBS surfaces and controlling those transformations. Those things we will see in the coming class. Then we will see how we can import from a third-party software into Maya and solve the issues, like it may not be 100% perfect. There will be some issues when you are importing from a third-party software, and rectifying those things and getting the result we want, mostly from a 2D software. And very important, if those who don't know to handle a pen tool or these curve tools, because you have to keep on practicing, without practicing you won't have control over these tools. So others who have controls, no problem. Those who don't have controls, please practice, because in coming classes, animation, dynamics, wherever we go, even if you go to texturing or any software, these will follow, and those have to be controlled well to get nice results. That's all for this video. In the coming sessions we will see more. Thanks for watching. If you have any doubts, please comment below. We are very much happy to rectify your queries, doubts, whatever you have. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you in the next session.